Benjamin Franklin was born in Boston on January the 17th, 1706. He was the 10th son of a soap maker, Josiah Franklin. Benjamin's mother was Abiah Folger, the second wife of Josiah. In all, Josiah would father 17 children. Josiah had intended for Benjamin to enter the clergy and to become a preacher. However, Josiah could only afford to send his son to school for 1 year, and clergymen needed years of schooling. But as young Benjamin loved to read, his father had him apprenticed to his brother James, who was a printer. After helping James compose pamphlets and set type, which was hard work, 12-year-old Benjamin would sell their products in the streets. When Benjamin was 15, his brother started the New England Courant, the first newspaper in Boston. Although there had been 2 papers in the city before James's newspaper, they had only reprinted news from abroad. James's paper carried articles and opinion pieces written by James's friends, advertisements, and news of ship schedules, and anything else that would interest people in Boston. As an apprentice, Ben's job was to help his brother while learning how to run the business. Benjamin wanted to write for the paper too, but he knew James would never let him. So Ben began writing letters at night and signing them with the name of a fictional widow, Silence Dogood. Dogood was filled with advice and was very critical of the world around her, particularly concerning the issue of how women were treated. Ben would sneak the letters under the door of the print shop at night so that no one would know who was writing the pieces. They were a hit, and everyone wanted to know who the real Silence Dogood was. After 16 letters, Ben confessed that he had been writing the letters all along. While James's friends thought Ben was quite precocious and funny, James scolded his brother and was very jealous of the attention paid to him. Before too long, the Franklins found themselves at odds with Boston's powerful Puritan preachers, the Mathers. Smallpox was a deadly disease in those times, and the Mathers supported inoculation. This means giving a person a vaccine, like a shot. The Franklins believed inoculation only made people sicker. And while most Bostonians agreed with the Franklins, they did not like the way James made fun of the clergy during a debate. James was finally thrown in jail for his views, and Benjamin was left to run the paper for several issues. When he got out of jail, James should have been grateful to Ben for keeping the paper going, but he wasn't. Instead, he kept harassing his younger brother and beating him from time to time. Finally, Ben could not take it any more and decided to run away in 1723. Running away was against the law. In early America, people all had a place in society, and runaways didn't fit in any place. Regardless, Ben took a boat to New York where he hoped to find work as a printer, but he didn't. So he walked across New Jersey, and he finally arrived in Philadelphia via another boat ride. After debarking, or getting off the ship, Ben used the last of his money to buy some rolls. He was wet and messy when his future wife, Deborah Reed, saw him on that day, October the 6th, 1723. She thought him very strange-looking, never dreaming that 7 years later they would be married. In Philadelphia, Benjamin found more work as an apprentice printer. He did so well that the governor of Pennsylvania promised to set him up in business for himself if young Franklin would just go to London to buy the fonts and printing equipment. Franklin did go to London, but the governor reneged, or backed out on his promise, and Benjamin was forced to spend several months in England doing print work. Benjamin had been living with the Reed family before he left for London. Deborah Reed was the very same girl who had seen young Benjamin arrive in Philadelphia and started talking marriage with the young printer. But Ben did not think he was ready. While he was gone to London, she married another man. Upon returning to Philadelphia, Benjamin tried his hand to help run a shop, but soon went back to being a printer's helper. Benjamin was a better printer than the man that he was working for, so he borrowed some money and set himself up in the printing business. Benjamin seemed to work all the time, and the citizens of Philadelphia noticed how hard-working he was. Soon he got the contract to do government jobs and started to make a very good living in the printing business. In 1728, Benjamin had a child named William. William's mother is not known. However, in 1730, Benjamin married his childhood sweetheart, Deborah Reed. Deborah's husband had run away, and now she was able to marry. In addition to running a print shop, the Franklins also ran their own store at this time, with Deborah selling everything from soap to fabric. Ben also ran a bookstore. They were quite enterprising. In 1729, Benjamin Franklin bought a newspaper, the Pennsylvania Gazette. Franklin not only printed the paper, but often contributed pieces to the paper under aliases or other names. His newspaper soon became the most successful in the colonies. This newspaper would print the first political cartoon, authored by Benjamin himself. During the 1720s and the 1730s, the side of Franklin devoted to public good started to show itself. He organized the Junto, a young workman's group dedicated to self and civic improvement. He joined the Masons. He was a very busy man socially. Benjamin Franklin loved to work. In 1733, he started publishing Poor Richard's Almanac. Almanacs of this time were printed annually, which means once a year, and contained things like weather reports, recipes, predictions, and other things that would be of interest to families. Franklin published his almanac under the name of a man, Richard Saunders, a poor man who needed money to take care of his ill wife. What distinguished Franklin's almanac were his witty sayings and lively writings. Most of the famous phrases associated with Franklin, such as "a penny saved is a penny earned," come from Poor Richard. In the 1730s and the 1740s, Benjamin Franklin continued to launch projects to benefit Philadelphia. One of his chief accomplishments was to launch the Library Company in 1731. At this time, books were scarce and expensive. Franklin realized that by pooling together resources, members could afford to buy books from England. Thus was born the nation's first library. Founded in 1743 by Benjamin Franklin, the American Philosophical Society was the first learned society in the United States. For over 250 years, the society has played an important role in American cultural and intellectual life. Until the mid-19th century, the society acted as a national library, a National Academy of Science, and a museum, and even a patent office. Early members of the society included Thomas Jefferson, David Rittenhouse, Benjamin Rush, and George Washington, as well as many other figures prominent in American history. Realizing that Philadelphia needed a better help in treating the sick, Benjamin brought together a group who formed the Pennsylvania Hospital in 1751. The Library Company, Philosophical Society, and Pennsylvania Hospital are all still in existence today. fires were a very dangerous threat to Philadelphians, so Benjamin set about trying to fix the situation. In 1736, he organized Philadelphia's Union Fire Company, the first one in the city. His famous saying, "An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure," was actually firefighting advice. Those who suffered fire damage to their homes often suffered irreversible economic loss. So in 1752, Benjamin helped to found the Philadelphia Contribution for Insurance Against Loss by Fire. Those with insurance policies were not wiped out financially. The contributionship is still in business today. Benjamin's printing business was booming in the 1730s and 1740s. He also started setting up franchises for printing partnerships in other cities. By 1749, he retired from this business and started concentrating on science, experiments, and other inventions. It was nothing new for Franklin. In 1743, he had already invented a heat-efficient stove called the Franklin stove to help warm houses more effectively. As the stove was invented to help improve society, he refused to take out a patent. Among Franklin's other inventions are swim fins, the glass harmonica, a musical instrument, and bifocals. In the early 1750s, he turned to the study of electricity. His observations, including his kite experiment, which verified the nature of electricity and lightning, brought Franklin international fame. Politics became more of an active interest for Franklin in the 1750s. In 1757, he went to England to represent Pennsylvania in its fight with the descendants of the Penn family over who should represent the colony. He remained in England to 1775 as a colonial representative, not only of Pennsylvania, but of Georgia, New Jersey, and Massachusetts as well. Early in his time abroad, Benjamin considered himself a loyal Englishman. England had many of the fun things that America lacked. The country also had fine thinkers, theater, witty conversations, things that were in short supply in America. He kept asking Deborah to come visit him in England. He had thoughts of staying there permanently, but she was afraid of traveling by ship. In 1765, England put a tax on all things made of paper. Benjamin was caught by surprise by America's opposition to the Stamp Act. He testified before Parliament, helping to persuade the members to take away the law. He started wondering if America should break free of England. Benjamin, though, had many friends in England and was growing sick of the corruption he saw all around him in politics and in royal circles. Benjamin, who had proposed a plan for uniting the colonies in 1754, now would start working in earnest towards that goal. Franklin's big break with England occurred in the Hutchinson Affair. Thomas Hutchinson was an English-appointed governor of Massachusetts. Although he pretended to take the side of the people in Massachusetts in their complaints against England, he was actually still working for the king. Benjamin got a hold of some letters in which Thomas Hutchinson called for an abridgment of what English called liberties in America. He sent the letters to America, where much of the population was outraged. After leaking the letters, Benjamin was called to Whitehall, the English Foreign Ministry, where he was condemned in public. Franklin came home to America. He started working actively for independence from England. He naturally thought his son William, who was now the royal governor of New Jersey, would agree with his views, but William did not. William remained a loyal Englishman. This caused problems between father and son which never healed. Benjamin was elected to the Second Continental Congress and worked on a committee of 5 that helped to draft the Declaration of Independence. Although much of the writing is Thomas Jefferson's, most of what in it belongs to Benjamin. In 1776, Benjamin signed the Declaration and then afterwards sailed to France as an ambassador to the court of Louis XVI. The French loved Benjamin. He was the man who tamed lightning, the humble American who dressed like a backwoodsman but was a match for any wit in the world. He spoke French, although he stuttered, and he was a favorite with the ladies. In part, because of Benjamin's popularity, the government of France signed a treaty of alliance with the Americans in 1778. Benjamin also helped to secure loans and persuade the French that they were doing the right thing. Benjamin was on hand to sign the Treaty of Paris in 1783 after the Americans had won the Revolution. Now a man in his 70s, Benjamin Franklin returned to America. He became president of the Executive Council of Pennsylvania. He served as a delegate to the Constitutional Convention and signed the Constitution. One of his last public acts was writing an anti-slavery treatise in 1789. Benjamin Franklin died on April 17, 1790, at the age of 84. 20,000 people attended the funeral of the man called the harmonious human multitude. His electric personality, however, still lights the world.